yeah, there's a little bit of water in there.
Oh, she'll run yet. Maybe not good though.
Oh, we gotta. I believe in the power of Beach Death Chrysler.
Right?
Oh,
that sounded bad.
what the fuck was that? Oh my god, stop. Holy shit.
Oh, that's why she's locked up.
You fucked it up now. It's dead.
She's done.
She's done.
Oh my god.
What a valiant effort.
We ain't driving this home.
Holy fuck.
Well, what you just saw there was actually about a month and a half ago. Brought it home that day and shoved it in the garage, and just been too busy doing other stuff to really even give a damn about it at the time and get it back up and going again. Clearly something is mechanically quite wrong, and I assume there's probably a window in the block somewhere. And I'm thinking we're going to get to that point. I've already begun kind of tearing it down a little bit. There's definitely some nasty moisture corrosion going on inside that throttle body, and the intake looks delicious. So we're going to get this motor popped apart and ripped out of here. I'm going to get the cylinder head lopped off, make sure the cylinder head's okay still, which hopefully it is. I think it is, otherwise I'll just have to get more crafty. But I do have a block sitting here, and this here is a twin cam engine. So it does have different pistons in it, and she's got, you know, she's got some color to her here, you know, but she feels all right. So I'll clean this up and, you know, maybe run the dingle balls through it and just call it a day, because, I mean, it's not too much giving a damn there. Obviously, got to pull the pulley off, change the timing belt, and all that fun. But I'm going to put the single cam head on the twin cam block, which should actually bump the compression up even a little bit. So we're going to get this head popped off of here and take a look and see what we got underneath. Got the intake manifold off. Just a tiny bit of moisture. No big deal. Yeah, nothing scary here at least. So that's good. Good sign anyways. Come on. Over here. So I'm about to pop the cylinder head off and take a look and see what we got underneath. I definitely much prefer these single cam cylinder heads. They're so much easier to work with. Not only is there more space, but you don't have to take the damn camshafts off to get the damn head bolts out. So that's kind of nice that you can leave all the cam shit intact and not dick with that. Yeah, whatever. So I got everything freed up here. I just got to pop it loose. Maybe grab the big old death screwdriver here and see what we got. A little bit of leverage somewhere in here. I got this hose cracked loose. Maybe I can. Oh yeah, there we go. That broke the seal. You can smell it too. But you can smell it the minute you freaking loosen up the head bolts. It's a great smell. I like the smell of automotive death. Just weasel this little chunk of hose down here real quick. Which is going to need to be replaced anyways, so not a big deal. There we go. Alright, let's pull this puppy off of here. And she looks kind of poopy, but you know, not too bad. This carbon that was all wet just is flaking off now. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, valves look okay. Pistons look okay-ish. Looks like some rust in there. I'll get you in and we'll take a look. Well, not as bad as I expected in a sense. Mainly being the pistons are all at the... Oh no, they're not all at the same height. Oh, at first glance, I am stupid, which is not really a shock. Number 4 is higher than number 1. That's a fucking problem right there. Can we push down on either of them? Well, they're probably kind of stuck in there. I mean, gross. I mean, I kind of fucked this one myself, but, you know, it is what it is. I'll bet you if we grab this guy here... Oh, yeah. Look at that. That shouldn't happen. So, there we go. And that's kind of exactly what I figured. I figured I blew a rod. Looks like I blew number 1. We'll have to get, when we get this motor out, we'll see if there's a window in the back side of the block there. There's no window in the front or nothing. So if there is, it's in the back side. Or maybe it didn't actually blow a window in it. Or maybe it screwed the oil pan. I guess I don't know yet. But when I get her out, we'll find out. We'll see how bad she is. Alright. Got the motor out on the stand. And you can see the oil pan did not survive. Oddly enough, I did not window the block. There's actually no damage to the block. I mean, there might be a couple little nicks on the inside. But just smacked the oil pan so far as I can tell. So I spun the rod cap off, and now I'm going to see, even kind of knacked up the bolt a little bit. But I'm going to see if I can't get that rod and pistone out of there and get a good look at the carnage. I'll get you in here so you can take a seek. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate this over here a bit and see if we get this thing to rotate enough to free it up here. Oh, it's still hitting something solid underneath here. What in the hell is going on here? Oh, it's the chunk of the rod. So if I rotate it this way, and then maybe I can push this guy out of the way like that, and then rotate it. Damn it, it stopped again. You know, it's a fire. You know, it just doesn't really want to come out of there. Christ. What in the hell? Oh, well, here's the chunk. Okay, well, there's part of the connecting rod. It's a nice little piece right there, huh? My guess is since I pushed that piston down, it must be hitting. Well, let's see if I can knock that piston up from the bottom. I've got a big old cheater bar here, and we'll just see if we can tap it back up to the surface. A little bit of water. There we go. Oh yeah! Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's got a nice little twist to it and everything. Gacked up the skirt real good. That's a keeper. Nice paperweight, you know. Get her cleaned up and keep her forever as a memento. Something like that. Words. Fancy words and things mean. But shoot. You know, it's funny. But if I wanted to, I could save this block. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't really have a reason to. I've got a couple other motors for other stuff, and I'm already replacing this one, so I'm just going to scrap it, but there we go. It's kind of crazy the way it hydrolocked. I mean, I was honestly kind of surprised it broke, because the motor wasn't exactly ripping at high RPM when she hydrolocked, but it must have just caught it just right, because once it stalled, it would not even crank over, and I'm like, okay, hydrolocked. pulled the spark plugs out, and I still couldn't crank it over. I knew right then and there it was probably fucked, but, I mean, it was worth a try. So, well, now we just got to get the new motor cleaned up and get it dropped in and bring her back to life. Well, I got her cleaned up with the pressure washer. Gave her the old quick rebuild with the old Dingle Ball 5000 here. Kind of smoothed her out a little bit. You know, she's pretty good. Smooth enough for government work, I reckon. And then just kind of, you know, clean her up with the little Cheek Poker 600 here. Just kind of get some of the high stuff down. It's all good. Now we just got to hit her with the rejuvenation spray, and, well, I reckon she'll be good to go. Just, you know, just gotta get her going here. Oh, yeah. It's perfect. Rebuilt. Chevrolet orange rebuilt. Refreshed things in here a little bit. Just, you know, a little. Yeah. Runs are a good thing because they fill in all the gaps. Well, went over the old cylinder head with the old Cheek Poker 600, and then kind of finished off all the high spots and all the old gasket material that was still stuck on there with the old Roto Reel 5000 here. It's a little worn out, but she's still got some life left in her. Not too bad. Everything's nice and smooth. There's some divots and pitting and whatnot here, but you know, I think that was probably there the last time I had this head apart, because I rebuilt this cylinder head probably 5-6 years ago, something like that, when it was in a different car. So I think she'll chooch just fine. Same thing here. Just went ahead and got this all cleaned up, and I mean, there's usual pitting and stuff, but little seal. I mean, these are rubber gaskets, which is nice. I mean, it's not an aluminum intake with a paper gasket. Plastic intake's got pretty thick rubber seals, so that's kind of nice. Get off my old ass here. Oh, kind of same thing. Got the old block ready. Kind of did the same treatment here. I've still got some to do here where, you know, the bolt and the chain was in the way, but the other side got it all cleaned up and all smooth. Cleaned up the water pump because it's still good. She's got some life left in her. Kind of got that surface all prepped. Otherwise, she's coming along. He slapped a little more rejuvenation spray on the alternator. She'll be good. A little rejuvenation spray on the starter. She's like new. Yeah, you know, got the actually new clutch assembly in there. And I ain't lying. That there is new. Straight out the Rock Auto. Cheapest stuff money could buy. Got the old one still there. Looks like it's still good, but I don't know how many miles are on that thing. Figure might as well. So yeah, not too shabby. Just gotta keep going. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna recycle parts, which is what I usually like to do. And this Gates tensioner is only about 5 years old or so. And I figured it'd be fine, but somehow at some point when sitting here, she locked up tighter than a fucking drum. So, guess I'm just gonna have to buy a new one. I suppose I might as well buy a new belt at the same time, but you know, that was fine too in my book. But I guess, you know, what are you going to do? It's not too bad. I mean, there's a little bit of dry to it. Oh well, they're cheap. It's a Neon. I mean, the belt itself is like 20 bucks, and the tensioner's probably going to be like 40. Not a big deal. So, I decided I would just drop the block in. So it's a lot easier to maneuver while it's just a block anyways. Slap the alternator on the back, get that a little easier. Got her bolted up there. Mount is just kind of temporary in there, was supporting it. Now I took the load off so it's not sitting stressing the bolts. Put the jack underneath it after I got the cherry picker out, but yep, so now I gotta get the timing belt parts that I need. And then we'll slap the cylinder head on and see how we go. Alright, so I've got all the bolts from the engine block to the transmission in. The brace underneath is all bolted together. The flywheel is bolted to the flex plate, so that's all good. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the water pump slapped on here. And then get the cylinder head slapped on and some other stuff. And I'll show you a little something that I like to do here. When it comes to holding gaskets in place, especially like some of these rubber ones, you don't want to use RTV silicone on them because RTV silicone can actually eat through some of these rubber components. So my recommendation actually here is using basically like a brake grease. I actually have this little tube of Silglide from Napa that I've obviously had for quite a long time, and it's just a silicone compound. It's safe on rubber components and whatnot, and it's very similar to synthetic brake grease. This is synthetic brake and caliper grease as well. That, of course, would be the grease that goes on the moving parts, the sliding pins, rubber boots, stuff like that. Not necessarily on the back of the pad to reduce squeaking. That's more of a sticky compound. But this stuff is great. It'll hold all these gaskets in place, and it won't hurt the gasket, and it won't give you a nightmare when you go to take it off later on. So I'll just kind of show you what I choose to do for that. So in this case, I'm just going to use this stuff here. It's finally running out, and it's kind of a nasty tan color. Don't take much, just a little bit on the old fingertip here. And basically, I'm just going to put a little bit of it in the groove in a couple of spots. This way. Well, I think I'm going to need just a little bit more than that, I reckon, if I want to get all the way around here. I'm going to do the same. Oh, good Lord. A little more there. You know. So that way it's in all of these spots. It'll hold the gasket in nicely. So I could just kind of tuck this gasket in. I know this gasket looks like shit. It's new. It hasn't been used. It's just dirty. It's been laying around for a while, and I got a bunch of extra gaskets and random parts and whatnot, so this gasket is still good and soft and everything, so I'm just going to reuse it because obviously I'm reusing this pump. This pump is still good too. It's only a few years old and doesn't give me any reason not to trust it. I mean, I'm sure people would suggest, well, you should just replace the pump, but I don't know. I mean, it's a budget car. I'll run the risk. Chances are, if that pump is going to lock up and go out, I'm going to know ahead of time. Because usually when these things go out, they make quite a bit of racket before they actually lock up. But this one's actually in really good shape. It feels good. There's no play in the bushing. Everything looks really good on it. So now that gasket, that's going to stay there just fine while I bolt it onto the engine. And I also went ahead and hit the bolts with a little bit of the rejuvenation spray. Got to make her look nice, right? The other thing that I usually do with these bolts, too, is before hitting them with the rejuvenation spray, focus, you fuck. Honest to God, no. It's my own fault for using a camera, right? I mean, a phone for a camera, shit. I just take these and I hit them with the old wire wheel on the bench grinder and get all the schmoo cleaned up out of the threads. That way, you know, she'll go in nice and it won't give you no problems. So, of course, whenever I'm tightening these down, I usually just bring the bolts until they're all the way down, and then I just follow the pattern, just kind of a crisscross pattern, like I would do with any gasketed surfaces. And of course you torque them to spec, which is about, click there, sure. Click, yeah, sure. Click. 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 Yeah. It's golden. I just kind of give it a once over and make sure they're all at about the right pressure, or what feels right to me anyways. Every bolt has a torque spec, and if you really want to be anal, you certainly can. I mean, if this was a race motor or something with a lot of power, then there'd probably be more reason to be anal about it, but this is just a little beater bomb, so do it by feel, and I'm generally pretty good with that. I've never had a failure, so... But yeah, so there we go. Water pump's on. Let's see what's next. Next on my list of ridiculous optional things, besides hitting this bad boy with some rejuvenation spray, is I'm going to remove this ear. This little ear is here for, it holds a evaporative solenoid, because normally there'd be an evap can down here with lines running to the solenoid. This car was in a pretty bad bang-up, so this is all fucked up inside there, but whatever. So we're just going to hit this with the old spinny death wheel and just kind of make that a bit smoother. Perfect. Safety is for the weak, right? I mean, come on. So there we go. That's quite a bit nicer. Gets rid of that chunk that's just sticking out that doesn't do anything at this point anyways. And now we'll hit her with the rejuvenation spray. Well, in keeping with my theme of doing things the wrong way and doing things that aren't recommended, I'm going to go ahead and change out this here camshaft. That thing's got a regular stock camshaft in it from 1998, and this here is a 2001 Magnum cam. So, you know, she might give her a little bump, and it's probably not a good idea, but, you know, I guess we're going to find out what happens. I mean, I had this in a different motor, and it was running good. When I pulled that motor, I wanted to save this cam for something else, so I just kind of pulled it aside, and I guess we'll see what happens if I throw it in here. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? I lock it up? Whatever. Guess we'll find out. So we're going to go ahead and pull this all apart the wrong way. So when it comes to inspecting this guy, you know, we got, you know, there's definitely a little bit of pitting here and there and whatnot, but, you know, it's a Dodge. It's pretty low tolerance here. This the seal is actually okay still and undamaged, so nice and soft. I think we'll just go ahead and reuse that. You know, no big deal there. We just kind of clean it out and let's see, how's everything look on this end here? Oh yeah, she's a beaut, boy. I tell you what, good enough for government work, I reckon. I'm sure this cam seal is probably no good anymore. Oh yeah, she's smashed in there flat. I'll have to look and see if I've got another one of those. Maybe the cam sensor's still good, so we'll take a look. So now we'll get the new camshaft ready. We'll oil her up a little bit and slap her in. So I think the best thing I can do to kind of prolong some life in this, of course, is put a little bit of oil on this thing. So I've got some straight 30 here that's been in this garage for God knows how long. It's got a weird-ass old price tag on it. It's made by Guard. But, you know, I mean, I'm sure it's probably fine. You know, we'll just schmoo a little on there and give her a little oily rub down, you know. Inappropriate noises. Always a good time, right? We'll just guide it on home. I think this is probably the only type of engine I've ever worked on that has a camshaft in the cylinder head like this, similar to the old V8 engine days. The stuff of our fathers. But there we go. We got her slid in, and basically the cam sensor and the pulley is essentially all that holds the damn thing in place. But that's a pretty easy cylinder head to work with, which is kind of nice. Click. Click. Sure. Well, besides the lack of actually torquing it down with a torque wrench, was that the correct way to put it on? Probably not. I don't know. I've never looked it up. I just do it in a way that sort of, I guess, feels natural to me and call it good. I don't know. I've never had a problem. Never had a failure. We'll find out. Maybe today's the day. Maybe this motor's just going to blow right the hell the minute I start it. We're going to find out. Alright, so I went ahead and dug around and I found this, is it a Victorines? Yeah, Victorines MLS head gasket that I had. Found a Felpro exhaust manifold gasket. So I can go ahead and, get the cylinder head tossed on. Interestingly enough, I noticed that one of these little locator pins is broken. That's alright, it doesn't need it. It's just kind of helpful to have it there. But I think we can work with what we got. We'll just take this bad chicken here and kind of put it up on top. Find that locator. Slide the gasket over a little bit. I'll just use the head bolts to kind of line it up. These Neons have long head bolts and short head bolts. All of the long head bolts, they actually go in the middle here, and the short head bolts go on the end. Let's see if we're getting lined up here. There we go. Made sure all that kind of dropped in where it needs to go, and then we'll get the rest of these here head bolts squared away. So you can see here's the short and the long. And so like I said, the shorts are on the end and the longs are in the middle. And should you reuse these head bolts? Probably not. But they look okay. They don't actually look stretched, so I don't know. We're just going to run with it. I don't care. I know what you're thinking. Was he using a torque wrench? Yeah, I was. The only thing I use torque wrenches on: head bolts, main bearings, connecting rod bearings. I don't even use it on the flywheel or the clutch. Once again, if it was a racing application or some sort of high performance engine, that might be a bit different story, but this, sure. Did I do it according to the book? Kinda. I did follow the pattern, and I did 25 on everything, and then 50 on everything. But the book says to loosen the bolts and then bring them back to 50, which I think sounds stupid and a waste of fucking time. And then the last step is stretching the bolts, which is where from 50, which I double checked, everything was 50, was the 90-degree turns. That's the part that takes a bit out of you. Is it right? Once again, nope. Probably not. Do I care? No. Have I ever had a head gasket blow that I did? No, not once. I've done a bunch, a lot. I don't even know how many head gaskets I have done on different engines, stuff of mine, stuff of other people's. I've bought in a lot of cars with a bad motor or bad head, something like that, and I've redid it, and I've never once had a head gasket that I did fail. So, confidence, pretty good. Could something go wrong? Yeah. Am I going to be upset if something goes wrong? No. Whatever. It's life. It is what it is. And these parts... All right. Parts. Oh, yeah. Fancy. Super fancy. Time to get back to work. Now, here's something I just don't understand. Now, I've ran into this before. You see thickness here. And this one has got a damn collar in it. And I just don't understand why that is. It's thinner. I mean, the bolt will go through it just fine. My guess is maybe this is something that's for a second generation engine, and they've done this so that you can work with both engines. But, I mean, if you don't know about it, you're going to run into some problems. So I'm either going to see it pounded out of there, or I'm just going to cut the bastard flush with the old death wheel. Losing a bit of space in the old garage here. And y'all probably, some of you might have seen the video I did on the old Honda there, but I picked up this here V-Star, and that's going to be the next project. Get that little girl running for the wife. But I've made enough space to kind of get at the vise here and see if we can't get that bushing out. Not much room on the old workbench here. I'm going to have to clean her off again. See if I can get this thing tapped on down. Tap, a tap, tap. Come on now. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's flush, I reckon, and give her another couple extra love taps for good measure, and then I think I'll just lip that off with the old was wheel and call it good, I reckon, because I don't feel like taking the time to drive the damn bushing all the way out when I can just kill it with electrical fire. Done. That makes it nice and easy and flush enough as far as I'm concerned. Time to slap it on the car. Oh yeah. Alright, so we got her mocked up on here. I've got the two bottom bolts just in hand tight. There's a little bit of wiggle and slop to it. I went ahead and I put these two motor mount bolts in. That way I know for sure that these holes are actually lining up with the proper threads. So I'll tighten those down and then I'll just pull these back out. That way they'll be out of the way for when I put the timing belt on, and then the motor mount will be able to go on just fine. Now this little tensioner pulley is all sorts of weird. I went ahead and I cracked this 13 mil jam nut loose, that way you can move the pulley. And the weird thing is you can see that the arrow points to the left for tightening it up, but when there's no belt on it, it just doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm basically just going to kind of make sure it's free moving in there to get the belt on, and then we'll show you how this goofy thing works. Alright, so to set the timing on this, so here's what I've gone ahead and done. I went ahead and I made sure that the crankshaft was backed off. That way I knew none of the pistons would be at top dead center. And I made sure the cam would be at 12 o'clock. And actually, it's just a hair past 12 o'clock. It's probably hard to see in the video, but that's not quite level. I did that on purpose. I rolled it just a tiny bit forward. So now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get the crank set to 12 o'clock. So I went ahead and slipped the belt on because it's easy enough to get it on. You just got to kind of slide it in from the bottom. And so, I'm going to go ahead and roll. There's a little arrow here. And then there's an arrow right up here that's a little shaded. Let me move the light up here and see if that can be much better. That's not too bad. Let's do that. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to roll the motor forward. And right about there, I suppose. And actually, I was just thinking, you know, what I usually do is I make that adjustment down here. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm gonna roll this back about a tooth, right? Just a little bit like that. So that way, it's hard to see it, but the arrow is actually just about half a tooth to the left of the actual timing mark. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is make sure that this camshaft which I have not ugga-dugged yet. I'm just going to roll that back a tit, so that way it's essentially at 12 o'clock. These camshafts on the single cam, there's a little notch right here in the gear, and so basically this bar is going to be flat even with the head, and that little notch is going to be pointing straight to 12 o'clock. So this way I can go ahead and get my belt slid on. So let's see if I can finagle that. I'm going to slide the belt on this end and then slide it up over the pulley. Alright, so move this light out of the way for the moment. So I'm going to take this pulley, take this bolt out of my way, put the belt over the water pump, and I'm going to bring it right up to the camshaft, which, sure. I'm not quite lining up with the teeth on the camshaft, and there's a good bit of slack in the belt, so I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, because I've got it rolled back a little bit so that it'll take up some slack. So presumably, right about there, will allow me to turn the crankshaft a little bit now. I feel like that's going to be too much, because there's a good bit of slop there, but it's hard to tell sometimes. All we can do is try. But I went ahead and I turned the crankshaft back counterclockwise a little bit to take some of the slack out of this side, to make it easier to slide the belt over this tensioner pulley. Even with that slid back, it's still a little bit of a butt. So I'm going to just try to give myself just a little more, if I can. That's about all she's got to give. Let's see if I can't slide this belt on up over this pulley. This is the annoying part. They don't give you much to work with. Sometimes if you kind of walk the belt halfway off the pulley, I can give myself just a little more space. Get it on the bottom. It's almost there. Just the tiniest little bit of belt. There we go. Oh my goodness. And I can push the belt back on the rest of the way. That does not give you much to work with. And if my timing marks aren't right, I'm going to have to do it all again. But, you know, such is life, I suppose. There we go. So now I've got that on there. So before I tighten it up, I'm going to rotate the crankshaft 2 revolutions and check and see how my timing marks are lining up. Though I think we'll be all right. Looking at this pulley here, we're looking pretty well 12 o'clock. And mark here is pretty much at 12 o'clock. So we'll give this thing 2 rotations and see where we're at. Coming back around onto the end of the second rotation here. There we go. And looks like we're pretty well, I would say, at 12 o'clock. And then the timing marks down here. Grab my light. What do we got? Yeah, look at that. Just a tit. Oop, that might have been a little bit of a tit too far, huh? Yeah, it looks pretty good. And 12 o'clock. So that looks good. So now it's just a matter of tensioning this little guy up. So I need a light still. That might help us. Let's see if I can kind of stick it back here. Something of the sort. Or just, you know, we'll just go ahead and drop the light underneath the damn car. That's great. Thanks. Okay, so this part might be a little hard to see, but basically there is this sort of notch right here, and we want the center of the notches to basically line up. And so now as we turn this thing counterclockwise, it actually, you'll see the spring start to pull back, and it loosens up to go into that notch position. And then you just tighten down the jam nut, and that's how you tension it. It's really funky. It doesn't work unless if there's pressure from the belt on it. But that's how that goes together. And so now that that jam nut is tightened down and everything's good here, I've got the motor jacked up a bit higher so it's easy to get, because do not forget to ugga-dugga this bolt or torque to spec, which good luck torquing it without the motor going over. Ugga-duggas always wins. Click. I reckon that's torque to spec. I did learn the hard way that if you do not ugga-dugga that, it will come loose. It will shear the pin on the camshaft, and it will destroy valves. So yeah, always make sure you ugga-dugga. So now, I can slap that mount back on and get it sitting back underneath its own weight. And no, I'm not putting timing covers on. Obviously, if you were to put timing covers on this engine properly, you would put the back cover on before putting the belt on, which just makes putting the belt on that much more difficult. No, whatever. I don't care. Live dangerously. Let's go here, people. Well, it's been about a month, and I finally decided to start working on it again. I took some time away from it to do some other stuff. Got the V-Star running, kind of got some stuff cleaned up. Cleaned the carbs again on the Honda. So, back at it now, finally. I've got the starter installed, and I've got the coolant pipes installed. They're not hooked up to the core yet. I do realize I've got to get a different gasket for the cam sensor, because of course that's shot, but the sensor's fine. So I got to pick one of those up. But at least I can continue getting a little further. Trying to finish bolting some things on. I kind of wiped the intake back down. I wanted to run the second generation intake, but I am not quite ready to install that yet, as I've got to get a different throttle cable, and then I've kind of got to get crafty and make sure I have what I need, you know, to make cruise control work and stuff like that. So for the time being, I'm just going to put the first gen intake on, and I'll play with that project at a later time. So I guess I'll get the intake bolted up and go from there. Well, I've got the intake all bolted back up, the valve cover on. I'm about to put the fuel rail back down, and I've decided that the O-rings still feel okay. They're still soft and pliable, and they're not flat. Like if these O-rings get really worn out, they're going to kind of have a flat edge to them because they've been in the intake for so long. These ones are actually not that bad, but as per usual, I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of a silicone lubricant. Like I did earlier when it came to putting the water pump gasket in. You can use like a brake silicone lubricant or something, just to put a little bit around these O-rings without necessarily getting any inside the opening there where the fuel is going to squirt through, because obviously I don't want to necessarily chance plugging up any of those little holes where the fuel would shoot through, though I imagine that would probably self-clear itself pretty quickly. But just to kind of be a little bit preventative to help these O-rings, you know, stay soft. I mean, obviously I've had them out before, and that's probably part of why they're in decent shape. But then also making it so that if I have to take the fuel rail out later, which we know I'm going to when I change the intake manifold, make sure it just comes out nice and it doesn't fight me. Alright, so got the cam sensor back on, throttle cable's hooked back in. This little noise suppressor's not connected, but that's fine. Got all the injectors and everything in. I've got the starter all connected. The starter ground is there. Everything looks good there. Don't have the crank pulley on our alternator belt yet, or hoses and radiator, but that's fine. And the real question is to see if she starts and see what happens. Got the clutch cable hooked back up and pulled the adjuster out a ways, so that feels fairly good. I just connected the battery. Just kind of see if we get didn't hear the fuel pump. Oh, you know what? I bet you I got the relay out for the fuel pump. Alright, fuel pump relay is back in. Everything seems to be in order. I'll try and start it. We'll see if I fucked it up. I heard the pump. Second time. Okay, no pump on the third time. Contact! Might need a crack of the throttle, I reckon. Kind of been sitting a while. She needs to help build up some compressiones. She angry. I think the idler control motor might be kind of pissed at us here. Well, all in all, it's actually running better than I thought. I expected it to run quite a bit shittier for longer, but the minute she popped off, she just fucking took right off. Oh, I see an oil leak. That fantastic new cam gasket I got apparently is the highest of qualities. Maybe I just need to snug her down a bit more. Oh, hey, you know what? Maybe I should tighten it down. Because I didn't. Whoops. Hey, that could have something to do with the idle being stupid, too. Because the cam sensor might be a little too far away from the magnet if it's not tightened down all the way. So, yeah. So, okay, we'll get the coolaration system's ice cube juices going in there and whatnot and tighten that fucking thing down. And we'll see what happens after she warms up a little bit. Alright, so we've got the radiator in. Got the coolant filled up. Got the cam sensor tightened back down. It was definitely still idling high. There's no vacuum leaks, so I swapped out the idle air control motor. So that hopefully should solve the high idle issue. Oh, I also put on, finally, the harmonic balancer and the alternator belt, so that way I can let it sufficiently warm up. I don't think that alternator's long for this world. It's making a lot of noise. That's definitely working air out of the system. Yeah, I can feel it humming pretty bad. Well, I'm going to plan for a new alternator. At least with all the power steering and everything removed, it's going to be easy to do. Well, I'll just let her warm up and we'll see if she calms down more yet. All in all, pretty good so far. Well, it seems as though the cooling fan is doing fuck all, but with the heater blower running or with it moving down the road, she's not getting hot. Brakes are not the same as they were for some reason, but here we go. Well, sit rep on the brakes as the pedal pretty damn near goes all the way to the floor. I don't really know why. It's kind of strange. But I do have full brakes. I'm not having any trouble stopping. Just kind of strange. But I guess it was a pretty good pull. We'll find out here again. See if anything breaks. Pulling just a tiny bit to the left, not too bad. Actually hunky-dory. What about that there cruiser control? Oh yeah, cruiser control, we're good. We're good to go. Well shoot. I guess aside from figuring out the coolant fan problem and well, we know that that alternator's gonna go on me, I think we're looking pretty damn good. Heck, I even got squirters. What about a towed tutor? No, it ain't got no fucking tutor. I think that might have been broken before. I don't even remember. But shit, there we go. Well, it was a long-ass video. If you took the time to watch it through, I do appreciate it. Hopefully there's some helpful information somewhere along the way, or at least there's some level of entertaining value. So, well, thanks, and